Hello and welcome to Soul the Story Book 2, Chapter 8. Oh, no, 8. Chapter 8, right? I am your host, Derek Tyler Attico, and I am going to enjoy this discussion tonight. I am here with the incredible stage and voice actress, Zuri Washington. Zuri, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited to be here at this 9:30 p.m. evening time. But no, this is my favorite. I'm like a witching hour kind of girl, so like this is
Okay,
where I really start to come alive. So this is good.
okay, this is great. Right, this is a little bit of a witching hour, but we're so thankful to have you, and I'm really excited to talk to you. I wanted to start off with talking a little bit about your career, and can you take us back to like how you first started? When was that first spark, that creative spark that made you realize that you wanted to do something in the arts?
Well, for me, and you will hear the sounds of the Bronx in the background.
Of the bro, that's fine. That's where that's it.
But for me, what really started, I come from a musical family, like a strong jazz family on
Oh,
my dad's side. My
okay.
um my uncle, not by blood, is a musician, and he used to have a group called New Voices of Freedom.
Oh,
That
wow.
was a really like a thing back in like the 70s, 80s kind of time, maybe even still 90s. And my parents met kind of through that because my mother sang. My mother went to music and art to LaGuardia, and though she would never let me go, she thinks I'm lying about this, but when I went to the Dalton School, which is a private school on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, when I got through 8th grade, I was like, I would like to go to LaGuardia, and she said no. And I was like, but mother, you went to LaGuardia, and she said no. And so sorry mom for telling that story to a bunch of people, but that's what happened. But I got interested in the arts like from birth basically, and then as I grew and kind of did little theatrical things here and there. I want to say the first theater piece that I remember doing anyway was Annie
Hmm.
when I was in 3rd grade, and I was like, I don't know, Pepper or one of the urchins. And in middle school is where it really started to become a thing, because in at Dalton at least we had a yearly musical, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And then in high school, we did weird plays. And once every 4 years, we would do a musical. And so I pushed myself to try to like, because I wasn't getting my musical bug, which is the thing that I primarily do. I'm a singer, actor, part-time dancer. But, but because I wasn't getting my like musical fix in high school, I auditioned a lot. I have pretty much like between 5'4" and 5'7" as I am now from a younger age. So I looked like older, at least to me. When I was 14, I was like, I'm 20. Like I could
I
just
can I can play that, right? I can play that.
add. I could play adult Nala. Um, because when I was younger, I was too tall to be in The Lion King. And my little brother, who was small up until he wasn't, got the opportunity. There was like a family friend or someone got the opportunity to audition for little Simba in The Lion King, and I was devastated.
Wow.
Devastated. So that's been like my acting bug and my like drive for the last I don't know, like 20 plus years of my life. Yeah, so that's where it like really started, and it's just kind of blossomed from there.
Wow, that's amazing. So it seems like it was always in your family. I'm always fascinated when I speak to someone on this show that how much of who they are artistically started in their youth. And of course, a lot of it I think is always from being around family. Let me ask you though. So you you're in school, you're in high school, and you're going to these performances. You're trying out, you're doing all that, going auditions. What was your first pro gig? Like, do you recall your first pro gig?
Yeah, my first professional gig, which my barometer for that is what I got paid for, the first one I
Right.
got paid for,
Same here, right.
was Hairspray when I was 19 in Pittsburgh when I was in school. I went to Point Park University. This is not a shout out to Point Park. I did not like Point Park.
This is
Very
not a
strongly.
shout-out.
I would say that very strongly with my chest. I did not like Point Park. I did not have a good time. However, I got a lot of theatrical opportunities, one of which was Hairspray at a local theater in the area. It was located in downtown Pittsburgh, and I think we did like a couple weeks of performances. I actually auditioned to be like a Dynamite because I'm 19 and I am a woman now. So like, yes, I'm again 5'6 3/4. You think, but it turned out that not enough women had auditioned, which is crazy. It's the opposite. It's usually not enough men within like theater, musical theater, and harder to come by. But for some reason, there were a lot of male Black talent that year and not enough Black female talent. So instead of doing female Dynamites, they called them the Dynamos, and they were more like the Temptations as opposed to the Supremes. And I played Little Inez at my big, tall, probably the tallest Little Inez that has ever existed. But it was okay because my brother was 6'3", so it worked.
Oh wow! Was he in it as well?
No, not my actual brother, but like Seaweed.
The brother, right?
In the context of the story, but no, I have 3 brothers, and 2 are older, 1 is younger. None of them is 6'3".
So let me ask you: Did that first role? It really sounds like obviously they auditioned you for your singing. Was there any dancing and what was the acting like? Yeah, see, it was all great.
Hairspray is a
Hairspray, right?
Dance show. Like it's so much dancing, like exhausting amount of dancing. You really don't stop once you start, especially if you're like one of the Black kids, one of the motor mouth gang kind of thing. The minute you come on for Run and Tell That, you are dancing through the rest of the musical, and it's pretty exhausting, but it's so much fun to do. Hairspray is one of my favorite shows. It's really good comedy, and a classic musical theater comedy. And yeah, I had a great time. So a little bit of everything: singing, dancing, acting, etc.
What did you learn, and what did you take from that moved you and pushed you, propelled you forward?
What did I take from that? That's a good question. I think what I most took from that, it was like, oh, I can do this professionally. Like I'm getting paid for it. And I also got, at the time, they no longer do this program, but there's a program called the EMC Candidacy Program within Actors Equity. And so that was my first EMC point. And that was my, like, oh, I'm on my way to being like a truly professional actor in Actors Equity and being a part of the union. So that was a really big deal for me as well. So I was like, okay, even though this is not the role that I imagined for myself and that I thought I would be doing, it's still a role. It's a titled role that I kept on my resume for a long time, because I get my solo and I get to dance and I'm featured. So
that's right. So here's a question that I ask often to guests on the show, and it deals with basically imposter syndrome. I know I've experienced it. But I've had a trial by fire that made me realize, what are you doing, man? Of course, you deserve to be here. You have what it takes to write and to write at a professional level. Have you, maybe you haven't had that experience, but have you had that experience or with, imposter syndrome or being in your head too much and then something happening and saying, of course I can.
I think my imposter syndrome in the arts came much later than most other people's imposter syndrome. I always knew I was meant to do this. From the time I was 12, I knew that I was going to school for it. I geared my brain towards that. All of my energy and effort was put into that. I've had a pretty successful career by all measures of success. Um, and I think as I've as I've continued to get into like commercial
Mhm.
theater and commercial Broadway type theater and experiencing the things that I have experienced on the flip side, the bad side of the coin, it's the imposter syndrome for me comes in where I'm like, can I hack it? Can I like really push myself to still maintain the same like vim and vigor I had when I started and not be jaded? I think I'll maintain my jadedness, but like, can I still pursue it with the same passion when I know how rotted it is? It is. So
Wow.
that's where my personal imposter syndrome has come from. Because there are people who make it look super easy, or it is easy for them because they don't have to experience what I've had to experience as a
Right.
Black woman within the industry.
Of course, of course, of course. And that's a whole nother, I think as persons of color, someone asked me once, what's it like being a writer of color? And I said, it's just like being a writer, of anyone else is a writer. But then there's an added layer that sometimes we have to go through being a person of color in entertainment, where things happen and you have to say, why is this thing happening? Is this thing happening because of color? And you have to deal with all that, and you have to deal with that on a daily basis. That other people have no idea what that's like, and
Right.
they don't have to deal with those hurdles that we have to deal with, as people of color. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Um, Let me ask you. There are, you are stage, um, uh, voice acting, which we'll definitely get to. You've done Sister Act. You've done Shakespeare. Can you talk a little bit about those experiences on stage, and moving through those different types of experiences on
Mhm.
stage, because they're not the same, and the audience may not realize. They may just say, "Oh, she's a stage actress," but you're doing different things and you're flexing and learning different muscles at that time. So can you talk a little bit about
Yeah. I mean, all different types of acting require slightly different skill sets, right? Like, it's the baseline is the same. Like, whether I'm doing Shakespeare or I'm doing Little Shop of Horrors, or I'm doing Tituba in The Crucible, the baseline is the same. But for me, at least, the difference, and it also depends on the venue, right? Um,
Sure.
but but the difference for me is kind of the scale. Like, Shakespeare is like, what I think of Shakespeare, my dad was an English teacher when he was still teaching, and so I grew up with a love of language and of Shakespeare. And so
Mm,
for me, Shakespeare kind of embodies, like when I was taught it in middle school and high school, it embodies kind of like the emotion is all in the vowels, and how you put things together, and the iambic pentameter of it all, and the how you unlock the language is different than doing a contemporary play. Is
mm,
different than doing a musical, though closer to doing a musical, because obviously you have rhythm in the context of a song, and you have music that is meant to evoke a certain emotion out of both you as the character that you're playing and also the
great.
audience. So yeah, so I try to approach everything relatively the same, but then just add little cherries on top.
I understand. When I was in college, I did for a year. I was an AD, a stage AD, and and what was fascinating to me was how the actors project on stage,
Right.
and how that projection can mesmerize somebody in the front row and somebody all the way in the back. So
Right.
can you talk about what you do on stage, and where you pull that from, within yourself?
Well, when I was in school, like elementary, middle, high school, our we did not have, like, mics are such like a new thing in some ways.
Hmm.
And we just didn't have mics, not because my school couldn't afford them, because again, I went to a private school on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, but it just wasn't a thing.
Right.
And so I learned how to use my voice. I have a really big voice. I have a big voice, both in the figurative sense and the literal sense. And I use it very to its fullest extent, the most that I can. I'm a big belter, like traditionally, though I am a soprano, but I am a belting girl. And I think for me,
Mhm.
sorry, let me find my train of thought one more time.
Take your time.
I think for me,
We're here for you.
thank you. But I think for me, when it comes to like finding my voice, again, venue, I've been in like really small, tiny
Right, right.
places, like little brick churches in Brooklyn. I've been in huge 2,000 seat theaters, 3,000 seat theaters, and like figuring out what the mood requires, what the character requires. Sometimes I like to, it helps me. I'm a storyteller, as you can tell. I like to like go be,
Yes,
so when
yes.
I was in school, like I'll do that a lot. But when I'm telling stories, I like to pull from other stories that I've already experienced. And so I think or things that I've seen. Like I'm like, oh, this character that I'm playing right now or reading for reminds me of this. Let me access that. And then I can find my way inside of her or them or him, because I've played many a him in my life. But yeah, so
Wow. What was that like playing a different gender?
so mostly in middle and high school, but it was interesting. I liked exploring the gender piece of it. I went to a co-ed school. I like to tell people I went to a co-ed school, but I still played gym in Big River. so like when my
Big
school,
River.
that was my 8th grade musical, and I
Right.
played gym. And because the director of the middle school, or the middle school theater program, he was like, I've been wanting to do this show for years, and you're my person. I know you are. And he, like, they just don't think about it, especially in middle school. They're like, you know what, you you
Right. You. Right.
it, we'll figure it out. It doesn't matter. I got really into it. I was like, okay, how old was I? 13, 14. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like bind my chest, and like I made my mom's a hairstylist, so I was like, mom,
Oh,
do
wow.
cornrows.
Wow.
So I had my hair in cornrows, and
Right.
I really tried to do as much like vocal preparation and getting my voice as deep as it can go. But like at the same time, I'm still a little girl. So I had to like my best example of this is when I did, what's that song? Free at Last. Um he says, so I had to do uh I wish by golly I could spread my wings and fly. Like I'd have to do that because I couldn't get down to those notes. But that's what I had, just changing some octaves and
Right. Right.
going for it.
Wow. That's thank you for that. That's fantastic. So this leads me to my next question. And you mentioned you're obviously a storyteller. Everyone I speak to here is a storyteller. What is storytelling like on stage, and what is storytelling like when you're voice acting?
So that is very different. I think for like, it's different only because, again, the base is always the same.
Hmm.
But because I don't have access to this, to my face,
Right.
because no one can see what I'm doing, no one can see, oh, you're dismayed or you're disappointed or you're ecstatic. There's a difference between ecstatic and like zealous, and like all the, there's just slightly different tones
Right.
and pitches and
Right.
things that you need to really dig deep and be like, okay, what does that sound like? I've never thought that hard about what it is, even though I am a very particular person when it comes to language. Like, as I've
Right.
said, language has always been a big part of who I am. Like if I tell you that usually won't tell people that I'm sad. Like, Zuri, how are you? I won't be like, oh, I'm sad. I'll be like, uh, I'm very distraught. I like to be specific. And so what I loved about voiceover is how specific I have to be in order to get the same level of performance out of myself.
Wow. 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 So, what was your first voice acting gig? How did that happen? Can you speak a little bit about all that?
Yeah. The first one, I feel like there was something before this when I was like really, really like in my like 20s, like because I took like a semester course in college for voiceover, not for any other reason except I was like, I might do this at one point. I don't know. But when I was, let's see, it was 2017, 2018. So a couple years before the pandemic, I was kind of just like milling about doing my life. And a friend of mine who I knew from my summer program back in high school, our summer theater program, I neglect to, it's not a camp because they would make me put 25 cents in a jar, but it was called Ensemble Theater Community School. It was in Eaglesmere, Pennsylvania. And I found that literally through Google. I was like, summer theater programs, because again, mad at my school for not doing a musical every year of my high school experience.
Right.
So I figured it out on my own. I said, Mom, this place. So my mom made sure to do all her research and her due diligence.
Awesome.
And I found this place. And one of the people that I met there, her name is Francesca Kahlo, and she is currently a voiceover actress and has been doing that pretty much since she graduated school, from what I remember anyway. And she, we were best friends for all 4 years of that program. And so what happened was, actually, were we there for 5 years? Oh my God.
So it was 5 years of voice acting and training?
No, of this summer program where I met
Francesca. The summer program.
So Francesca is the one who said, hey, Zuri, long time no speak. How are you? And I said, hey, what's up? And she said, I am producing this project and I would really love for you to audition. I can't, like, I'm not the sole producer, so I can't just like give you the role, but I really, really love for you to audition. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. Recorded on my phone because I don't have any equipment. Again, I put all my energy into musical theater. I have my Laducas. I have no voiceover equipment. So I recorded the auditions. It was for 2 roles that she had me audition for, and I ended up booking the lead in it. And that was for a pilot. They're still working through like the nitty gritty of trying to like get it shipped to Netflix, get it like, they're shopping it around, especially because the pandemic happened, everything kind of slowed down. But I got to work with like Johnny Young Bosch, and I got to work with some wonderful people who are still amazing and still work consistently within the industry, but like really big voice actors in the 80s and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I listen to your voice all the time. So I was working with all these really incredible people. And through that, I met my voiceover coach, who was also doing voiceover on that project. And she was like the vocal, she was like kind of assistant coaching on the side, oh, if you do more of this to everyone, for everyone. And that was Erica Schroeder, and Erica Schroeder being Luffy in One Piece, I think the 4K version. I always forget which version, but she's Luffy in One Piece and all the Wobba Fett and Pokemon she's been doing for years and years and years and years. And she's a wonderful actress. And Smash the Stampede. Listen, my brain rotted when I found out that Johnny Young Bosch was doing this project with me. So in any case, so I met Erica, and when the pandemic happened, I kind of was like, well, theater's dead.
Right.
What am I doing? So I was like, okay, the signs are telling me, whether it's from my friend who said, I think you'd be really good at this, or
moving in that direction, right?
Let me see what happens when I follow this path. So I started studying with Erica during the pandemic for like a year and a half. We worked toward my demo, and kind of the rest has been history since then. I've been very fortunate to build upon that from there.
Wow. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And you're right. It's like a confluence of all these things just falling into place. And I guess, do you think if the pandemic hadn't happened, do you think you would have moved so deeply into voice, or you probably would just be bouncing between the two at this point?
I think a couple of things happened, but like I think I would have not given it so much credence just because I wouldn't have had the time to be like
Right.
to think, to be like, okay, I need a good microphone. I need this thing. I need this other thing. Like I would have never thought about it.
Right.
And so because I kind of had the time to sit and ponder the future, it allowed me the space to be like, okay, so I have this really bad microphone. It's not really bad. It was fine. It was a Rode NT USB mic. It was good mic for what it was.
Right.
But as I was learning during the pandemic, a lot of clients won't work with you if you have a USB mic. So I was like, okay.
Pro tip.
So I was like, okay, gotta buy an expensive mic. So started doing research, started figuring out how to sound treat stuff. Cause I think when I started, I was in a closet somewhere.
Right.
Like just in the closet in my
In the
house,
closet, right? Just right.
as you are.
Right.
And now I have my little VO1 booth, which does me good, and especially because I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in this place long enough. I would love to have one of those big, like $5,000 booths. That's what we all want, but only if I know I'm staying someplace for more than 5 years. So,
Right.
because that's a piano.
Right. Right. So let me ask you. So okay, the pandemic is over, and now you've started and you've launched this voice career, but you still have your stage career. So do they inform each other now? How does that play out for you?
Do they inform each other? Stage always informs voiceover. I'm at a particular, I know that a lot of people get into voiceover because they're told, or they know that they have you have such a cool voice.
Right.
Such a cool voice. You have such a good voice. You could do, which is all, or you can do impressions, which is all well and good. But if you don't know how to act, then you're not going to book the gigs, and especially the good gigs. So the ones that pay the bills. And so theater will always inform my voiceover, my TV and film if I choose to really get into it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But voiceover, I can't say it like informs theater. I've kind of pulled out of theater for the last, it's 2025, last couple of years. I haven't done a theatrical show. I've done some workshops here and there, but I haven't done like a show on stage in a couple of years for a multitude of reasons, including like we don't have to get into this, but I'm in the middle of a lawsuit right now because I'm suing a company that did me dirty. And the byproduct of that is a combination of things. It kind of rocked my sense of self, but also there are some people that were a part of that are also a part of shows that I choose to audition for, and they're not going to hire me while this is still going on. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And I don't feel like putting myself through that, especially since voiceover has been so good to me. The last 2 years or so, it's been really good to me. So I'm going to just take that as far as I can take it and come back to theater when it feels right.
Right. And it'll be there for you. So I definitely understand that. So let me ask, how do you emotionally prepare for, I mean, you can answer this any way you want, but how do you emotionally prepare for when you are, or when you do stage, but how do you emotionally prepare for voice actor, for a role as a voice actor?
That can be hard sometimes, if only because some projects I get the script 5 minutes before.
Really?
And I'm like, well, okay. Like so when I do Warhammer, I literally get the script the day of 5 minutes before the session starts. So as I'm reading, I kind of am just like, okay, oh, okay, ooh, okay. So I'm screaming, and then okay, cool. The same thing happened with Smite too, where I kind of have an idea of what's going on very vaguely, but I don't know the particulars until I get into the script. So then I'm like, it's like, what's her name? Adira in Warhammer. It was like, Adira screams and is drunk at the same time, and I'm like, okay, so let me figure out, where does that come from? Let me figure out. And then also I have to have a half African, it's a African English
African.
Like literally when I auditioned, they were like, okay, we want it to sound like half African, half English. And I said, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Right.
I don't know what that means. So so she's like African with some English inflections. I don't know. That's what I did, and I booked the gig. So I was but yeah. So on top of that, so you're doing the accent plus the intention of the acting that I've just now read, and then all that stuff, trying to put it all together in 5 seconds. Then I got to do 2 to 3 takes of each line and just make it slightly different and be like, is this the take? I don't know. So it's kind of like a fly by the seat of your pants sometimes, but I enjoy it partially because of that, because I do best kind of off the cuff. I'm a great cold reader. Like, I'm a great cold reader. If I go in for a theatrical show and they're like, oh, that was great, Zuri. Can you like take this and like go in the hallway and then come back in like 10 minutes? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Great. I know a lot of people hate that because they like to prepare.
Right.
And it's not that I don't prepare, but I think sometimes your first through third choices are probably the best choices.
Yes.
So you don't overthink.
Yes, we, as artists, we always get in our heads too much.
Yeah.
And you're in the moment and not in your head.
Correct.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. I'm blown away, and I'm seeing how your time on stage works so well now with voice, because I was going to ask you how many takes you get to do, but you said only 2 or 3. But I would imagine being on stage, that's nothing for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, I also flub. Like everyone, like you're talking, and I'm like, I'm just reading. Start the conversation. I'm just reading off the side on the chat, but so it happens. But because your brain stutters and you're like, too many words, and you're reading walls of text. But yeah, I think that theater definitely helps, because I hold my script when I am rehearsing for a show. I hold my script as long as possible, because I don't want to pre-memorize a performance. I don't want to come into the room. I don't care if the rehearsal process is 1 week or 6 months. I do not like memorizing a performance and being like, okay, so here and this. I don't like doing it. It doesn't feel genuine and it doesn't feel natural to me. And like, obviously you have to do that for TV and film, because you're not holding, you have to, but I'm going to hold the book as long as I possibly can, because then I can make new discoveries within the text.
Absolutely. Wow. Do you get booked? I don't know a lot about voice acting. So can you get booked for multiple characters in one booking?
Oh yeah.
Really?
It doesn't always happen. So what usually happens is, or at least in my experience, let me say, in my experience, what has happened is I audition for a role, like one of the main roles, one of the featured roles. And then if I book that role, then I come into the session and they're like, oh, also you're playing girl number 3 and teacher number 4, and also this thing and also this other thing. And I'm like, oh, surprise. When I first discovered that was a thing, I was like, oh, I have to make up like 6 voices on the cuff. Like, let me just figure out what these voices are. And then little boy, let me figure out what that is. Like I don't know. That's just, it's bonkers. But it's all, again, very fun, but also very stressful when you're trying to differentiate. You're like prepared with the one character. You're like, okay, yeah, I know what she sounds like. And then they're like, oh, but there's three or 4 more. And you're like,
wow.
So it happens.
And so you have to do this all on the spot. So What about, I guess, the economy? It's something that I do when I write is an economy of energy, right? Because
Mhm.
I know if I'm doing a novel, and I have to have a certain amount of energy when I'm writing a certain scene or to go through the whole, from A to Z, the whole manuscript.
Right.
What do you do for your economy of energy? 'Cause I would imagine you'd have to figure that out as you're going through all those different characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like for me, it's more about the length of time and
Mm,
like so if I'm booked for a specific amount of time, I know how much energy I have to maintain
okay,
throughout that session, no matter
right,
what the role is.
right.
So even if they throw me a curveball, it's happened a lot where sometimes I am just voicing the one character and they're like, "Oh, we need you to actually do this one line in this one scene in one episode. Can you just do this really quick?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. It's still within the time, so great. I know how much of my voice I have left to maintain or what I
Mm,
can or cannot do." Smite was really good about this. In terms of booking, because Smite is a screamy, screamy, screamy game. Because you're just like, attack the Titan, and they're like, we can only book you for. They try to only book you for 2 hours per character,
wow.
and when I was kind of still fresh to everything, but I was like, I can do these 2 characters in one session. That's fine. And toward the end, I was like, ooh, but I got through it. It was fine. But I was like, oh, this is actually very taxing. I'm saying attack the Titan many, 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 many times, more times than I had anticipated to say it, in 2 different character voices.
Wow. Wow. That's wow. All right. So let's talk about the Star Trek gig. Can you talk a little bit? I know this it hasn't come out yet. We're talking about Star Trek Con, the audio drama series, written by Kirsten Beyer and David Mack. Um, can you talk a little bit about how you got the gig?
Yeah. So I auditioned. It came through my agent. There's some projects, especially because I didn't start out with a voiceover agent, but some projects come through my agent. Some projects don't. They come through friends or, you know, social
Right.
circles. But this project came through my agent, and I was like, I won't say what it was called at the time because it was like a secret name. It was
Right.
like
Right.
one
Right.
of
Yeah.
those
Sometimes
secret
they use
titles.
those names. Right. Right.
But so I was like, oh yeah, I'm auditioning for this thing, and they scrubbed every sign. It didn't say ensign this, it didn't say Starfleet anywhere, so I had no idea that it was Star Trek at all.
Right.
And so I auditioned for it, and they asked for I think I did it in my normal everyday voice,
Mhm.
my normal everyday voice, but like my way of speaking, no accent. But then they asked subsequently, like a week or so later, maybe they were like, "Oh, anybody who auditioned for this, can we also get like a take in an East African dialect accent?" And I said, "Oh yeah, sure." Because African is very much in my wheelhouse. Jamaican is in my wheelhouse. It comes through very easily for me. And so I
Wow.
was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I booked it. There was no other, like I didn't have a callback per se except for the like, hey, do the African voice, but like that was it. And
Wow.
then I think I started to know what it was once I started getting paperwork.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what? Wait, hold on a second. And then because I'm not to say that I have like love for Star Trek on like a kind of historical level and what it means.
I understand. That was my next question, which is how much of Star Trek are you aware of? Do you know?
Very
Uh,
little. Like I know
okay.
who Captain Kirk is, and I know
Right. Right.
I know all the basics. I know who Uhura,
Right.
I know all the things, but I don't know the details. And I needed a lot of things explained to me, which is why Kirsten was so helpful to have
She is. She
as
is. Yeah.
like incredible resource. And I'd be like, we had a whole phone call prior to my first recording session, and she would be like, yeah, text me whenever if you have more questions, whatever. And I had very specific questions. I watched as many episodes that were related to Khan as I possibly could.
Right,
Um,
right.
I watched The Wrath of Khan. I watched the initial episode. I kind of had an idea of what was going on. And then I asked I was like, so when they landed on SETI Alpha 5, can you please explain? Like, I'm just like all my nerdy questions once I got into it. But yeah, I grew up on Star Wars. My family is a Star Wars family, but my aunt is a big Star Trek person. So I had a peripheral knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
This is great. I mean, I think sometimes not being familiar with a thing or not having a deep dive familiarity with a thing, it can actually be a bonus.
Oh, for
As
sure.
opposed, right? As opposed to being a diehard fan because you come from it from such a fresh perspective,
Yeah.
So, was there anything that drew you once you're doing the character, once you know the character you have? Was there anything that you found? And obviously there's things you can't talk about, but was there anything that you found about the character that you that drew you to her or that you enjoyed about the character?
I really so her name is Madot. And there's like a softness to her. There's a softness and a strength to her that I really appreciate. Um, and she's actually like, you'll see when you listen to the show, but like she's actually super important to the function and form of how things move forward. And I really think she's a grounding person within the context of like so much crazy has happened. Like I don't have to. That's not a spoiler. Everyone knows SETI Alpha 5 when it exploded,
right,
or SETI Alpha 6 exploded, and so and all that stuff. So like watching as these characters kind of navigate the really rough terrain that they've been left, and seeing how she still maintains a cool head despite the chaos is something that I really admired about her and really respected. And I think like a lot of what I learned about what's it called about Khan and his people, they're so prideful, so like we are better than everybody, eugenics wars, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
But Madot is very different to that in some ways. Like she's still like, yeah, I'm a smart cookie, but she also knows when it's not her game to play, or she knows when to step back and let other people kind of take charge. Yeah.
Fascinating. So this applies to just voice acting in general. But do you have the opportunity to perform with other actors, or are you performing solely by yourself and you have to act as if you're having a back and forth with someone? How does that work?
95% of the time I'm by myself.
Wow.
Like when I did Futurama by myself, when I did this by myself, when I did, I think the only thing I've ever done with other people, to my recollection anyway, that I've done physically in a space with other people was the first thing that I ever did, the pilot. What was the other thing? Oh, it was a movie that hasn't come out yet, but like a children's movie where we were in small groups together. But other than that, it's me by myself. So I talking to myself a lot and just kind of trying to imagine what the responses that I'm getting, or like, oh, if someone's yelling at me, how I'm reacting to being yelled at, like all that kind of stuff. So which is interesting because sometimes you can't predict how people are going to give you material. And there's a lot of that in this where you have to kind of predict it.
Wow. Going back to the Khan series for a second. Is this your first, well, I guess Warhammer applies, but is this like your first science fiction gig?
I think Warhammer applies, but like, yes, this is like I don't know.
Kind of, right?
There's so many things that like
With
kind
Warhammer, right? I know.
in like
Warhammer is a little bit different, yeah.
but like Warhammer is kind of, and then like Futurama is obviously Futurama is like
Of course, Futurama, right? So,
science.
so I guess my question is,
Yeah.
from Futurama to Warhammer to Star Trek, and you're just using your voice. How do you bring, or do you think about bringing intentionality and humanity to characters in those kind of like surrealistic settings?
Oh, you have to. There's still, sci-fi sci-fi and fantasy are two sides of a similar coin, right? Where you're telling human stories in the context of very like surreal circumstances.
Right, right.
So no matter how many aliens you see or no matter how many spaceships there are, the story at the bottom is still human. I think like, not to get on a slight tangent, but I think like Andor did a really great job of doing that for Star Wars. And that's what I've always wanted. That's what, not always, but for a long time, that's what I've wanted from Star Wars, is like the human part of it. Like what's happening with everyone who's not a Skywalker? What's going on? So that kind of thought process has to be in everything that you do as an actor. These characters are human. If you're playing a horrible person, they're still a human, unless the purpose is that it's satire.
Right.
Because like say Taika Waititi in Jojo Rabbit, satire.
Right, satire. Of course,
so he's not like, and he's also the imaginary friend of a child. So it's like all these things that you're kind of contending with. So he's not really human in the traditional sense of like if he was actually Adolf Hitler, but you still have to play the human part of it. Christoph Waltz has to play the human part of that character he played in Inglourious Bastards, because otherwise you're just playing monsters. And monsters came from somewhere.
Right. And that's like a caricature of something. You want to be as authentic as.
Are you a Disney villain or are you a real person?
Right. So, your first voiceover gig sounds very interesting. This is basically the same question from your first professional gig. What was your first? Were there any lessons that you've now taken from that first professional voiceover gig? Or just things that you've picked up from voiceover that you're now carrying through in everything that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, now I know how to turn pages very quietly. That's a helpful skill to have. Because when I first started, I was like, and they were like, yeah, there's practical things that I learned. And I think I also learned that I love people, but I also hate people. Theater is 40,000 people trying to produce one thing, and we're all in the room together, and it's a very stressful environment, and we're not getting paid enough to do it most of the time. And so, but to do voiceover and kind of be in charge of my own space and my own time to a certain extent, and like schedule myself, like when I'm booking out certain gigs, I'm like, I'm not available that time. Theater, it doesn't matter. 10 to 6, 10 to 6, 10 to 6, 10 to 6, 10 to 6. So it's really nice to kind of have, I go into my booth, I'd have a couple hours or 3 hours, and then I'm out. And then I sit and I edit, or sometimes I don't always have to edit. Let me be very clear. There's an audio book that I'm doing right now that requires editing. But other than that, I'm done for the day. So it's like, It's kind of peaceful. And I think what I learned is that I need peace.
Right.
So, yeah.
We all do. We all need peace, right? Especially in these times.
Yes. And someone asked a little question. I wanted to make sure I answered it. I tried to catch them. Okay. But to answer the question, it was about if you get paid for do you get paid for multiple roles in one show? No, you get paid hourly. period. So like, especially because I'm SAG eligible, I'm non-union SAG eligible, I'm not SAG AFTRA yet. So this Star Trek project, SAG AFTRA, Futurama, SAG AFTRA, but I have very few and far between SAG AFTRA gigs. So but I do know, or as far as I understand, when you do a SAG AFTRA project, there's but so many roles that they can add on to your tally before they have to give you more money to compensate for that.
That was a great question. Whoever asked it, thank you so much. So in a given month, I mean, if you're like you said, you're doing a stage that's 10 to 6, or if I have a friend that just finished working on a TV series, he was like for 8 months. What is it like? What do you try and do in regards to voice acting? Like, do you try and get like a certain volume of gigs a month? How does that work?
I mean, I'm just like literally, I'm just sitting in my house waiting for people to be like, Zuri, we need you, and I'll be like, okay. I
We
wish
do
that
need you.
so I wish that it was like I've been working a lot this year, and I'm very, very, very grateful. Like my voice is tired because I've been working a lot, which is good, but I'm also like, oh, Zuri, go to sleep. But it's been a lot of kind of, how do I say it? Like trial and error in terms of figuring out, oh, Zuri, you shouldn't have accepted that. Oh, Zuri, say no to that audition, just to audition. Sometimes I get like 3 to 6 auditions a day. There was a week I had like 17 auditions or something like that. And I was like, I don't have time to audition for all these things and also do all the gigs that I have.
Yes.
So like really trying
no.
to be in charge of myself and say, no more sugar. You're good. You're fine. But like, of course, I'd love a certain volume of things per month because again, this is what pays my bills.
Right, of course, right.
So, but there's high season, there's low season. I can work for 3 months in a row and then all of a sudden nothing.
Yeah, no, I understand as a writer, as a freelance writer, it's feast and famine, and you have to learn how to surf,
right?
And catch the wave and look for the upcoming wave and see how long you can ride that wave. So I definitely understand. We're coming up on an hour soon, and I must be finishing up here. Let me ask you: is there something, whether it's stage or voice, that you haven't done yet that you hope to do, or would love to do?
I would love. I really like. This is not the reason why, but like, I really want to do Star Wars. I've had I've had a couple of projects come across my way that it just hasn't.
Right.
Yet, but I'm like, oh, come on, Disney. I just need this. I just need this. But
I feel the same way.
I'm trying to do my nerd Infinity Gauntlet. Really, I'm just like Star Trek, Marvel, DC, everything, like all of it. I don't care.
I feel you. I'm doing the same. I'm trying to do the same as a writer, right? Star Wars, Star Trek, right? You want to do right? I feel you. That's amazing. That's amazing. And you haven't done anything with comics yet, right? Am I wrong, or you haven't done anything with?
No, not yet.
Right. So that you're like your voice and your range. I can just hear the fullness and depth in your voice. I would love to see you on a comic book show like a Invincible or something like that.
Yeah, I have auditioned for Invincible. I love, my agents are so lovely and they've got me some really great auditions. I've auditioned for Invincible. It's just a matter of like right time, right fit, etc., etc., etc. These things will happen at some point. I feel very confident in that. Like I said at the beginning, I was meant to do this. I was meant to be in entertainment, be on stage, be on your radio, do all these things. I was meant to do these things. I'm a smart cookie. I could have been a lawyer, but I also don't want to pay for school. So, but I could have done a lot of things, but I was meant to do this because I believe that art has a fundamental responsibility, not only to entertain, which is important, but also to teach, to to help people grow, to like I learned a lot from myself when I saw The Land Before Time when I was 7. So like I just think it's so what we do as entertainment professionals, when you really get down to it, is such important work. Even though it seems so frivolous from the outside looking in, it's so important. And I just like, I really look forward to kind of what the future will bring.
No, I totally agree. You're absolutely a storyteller, and that's why that's one of the reasons why I thought of this show, Soul the Story, because what you're talking about is reaching the soul of your story, but reaching the souls of people and touching them
Mhm.
through what you do and through your craft, and it's amazing what you do. I'm fascinated by what you do. I'm delighted that you've been on the show. It's been a fantastic, it's been almost an hour over. It's been a fantastic hour. Is there anything that you can talk about of what's coming up or that you're doing next?
There are so many things that I really want to be like, I'm doing
You can't, no, I understand. I understand.
like I have a couple really cool things coming out this year. But like when it happens, everyone will know because I will be screaming it from the rooftop.
Right,
But
right.
but for now, no, nothing crazy. Star Trek is September 8th, Star Trek Day. It really excited like Naveen and all the wonderful people who are a part of it as voice cast, but also the behind the scenes crew was really wonderful, and I can't wait for everyone to hear about it.
We can't wait either. Let me ask you one final question.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that has yet to really challenge you in voice acting? Because it sounds like you're just crushing everything. Has there anything that's been like a challenge to you as of yet?
That African English accent was very
Well, yeah, okay. I'll never forget that. Thank you so much for that. African. What's a African? Thank you so much.
That's my word. That's not what they said, but I was like, oh.
Okay, well that's good. At least,
But,
right.
but that's what they wanted.
Mhm.
It's a way that they get away with being like, it's not Africa, it's someplace far away in space. I don't know. That's how things work in certain places. But but no, because I like a challenge. So
Mhm.
there's no challenge that I have met for the most part. At least let me stick to voiceover, that I'm not like, okay, let me wrap my head around this and just dig in and I'll figure
Right,
it
right.
out. If I get a thing that's like, we need a boy voice that sounds like this, but don't sound like Ash Ketchum. And I'm like, okay, so what does that sound like? What is a black little, I think one of the hardest things actually that I came across that I've come across is a black little boy voice. My
Oh
voice
wow.
coach is a white woman. So when she's teaching me boy voice, she's just looking for a certain quality in my voice,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
she's like, yeah, that sounds fine. But if I'm being asked to portray a little 6-year-old boy versus a 10-year-old African American boy versus
Right,
like,
right.
that's very different. And there are very few examples of women playing black boys aside
Oh
from
yeah.
Regina King and
Right.
sometimes Cree Summer.
Boondocks.
Cree Summer has played her own brothers in Rugrats, I think. Um,
Right, right. Cree
uh,
Summer did.
and there's like one or two others, and it's starting to happen more and more. But
Mhm.
like, it's easy to go for the white ones. You got Timmy Turner, you got Tommy Pickles, you got like the big five.
Rugrats and all that stuff. Yeah, I know. Right.
So you have all of these examples, but a little black boy sounds slightly different. Little Bill was played by a little black boy. I'm trying to think of others that. Gerald from Harry Arnold was played by a black teenager.
Wow.
So there are very few examples, and you can't just all sound like Regina King. Do I do a good Riley impression? Sure, fine,
Mm.
but that's not what every little boy sounds like, or
Right.
Hugh. And so that was probably that was like a chunk of my time for one role that I was going in for. I was like, what do little black boys sound like in a female
Yeah.
voice? So just
From a
figuring that out was probably one of the hardest things. And And it's not always consistent, and I sometimes have to go back and be like, what did I do, or what quality am I looking for, so that, because again, it's not that they sound there's not a sound in terms of like, again, Riley being the little ghetto child that he is in the Boondocks, but like that's not what all of them are. Sometimes they're sweet little boys, but they're still Black, and so I have to listen to my nephew. I'm like, what does my nephew sound like? What does my 4-year-old nephew sound like? Versus
and picking that apart, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Right. Has there ever been? I'm just going to ask another question. Has there ever been advice that you would give now to someone that you wish had been given to you, whether it's in voice or stage?
I think for stage, like for voiceover, it's like just have fun, like just have fun. That's the most important part of it, is to really, even when you're doing the most serious, like this is a very serious, Star Trek was super serious, there's a lot happening, but still have fun and still enjoy what you're doing. And I think for theater, it's more, don't be swept away by the promises of progressivism within the theater space. And like, we don't have time to get into it, but I'm also a DEI consultant, and a lot of the things that I've experienced, seen, researched, read, etc., and then also experienced as an actor within the medium is just it's very sad and very disappointing. And no one likes being disappointed, but I think I took it really hard in a different way when this thing that I paid my student loans doing theater. I did, like, this is the thing that has buoyed my career to where it is, but it's also the thing that's harming me. So I think I would have just warned myself to take heart a little sooner.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Zuri Washington, thank you so much. I'm excited. I was excited talking to you and to get ready to talk to you. I've been excited in this conversation, but I find myself now more excited just for what you will be doing and your presence, to see your presence and to hear your voice out there. So I want to thank you very much for being on Soul of the Story. It's been
Thank you for having me, Derek. I appreciate it.
it's been a lot of fun. And while I'm here, I also want to say thank you to everyone for being a part of this incredible community. And if you're new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a conversation or Soul of the Story, where our goal is to always have authentic discussions with incredible individuals like Zuri Washington. And if you want to get your brand in front of our loyal, story-driven audience, sponsoring Soul of the Story is a unique opportunity to connect with consumers who are not only passionate about real stories, authenticity, and diverse perspectives, but also committed to supporting brands they believe in, right? And whether you're a small business or an individual, our community is engaged and ready to make meaningful connections. So click the link in the show description to sponsor, or visit SyFy Sistas.com/sponsors to learn more about how you can be a part of the conversation. And please join us again next Tuesday, where we will have the recap of the Star Trek Las Vegas experience. So thank you very much again, Zuri. Thank you. This has been a pleasure, and you've been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.